Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Gol Bezan. This is Pasha Hadjan speaking. I'm also talking to two members of Gol Bezan podcast. Sorry it's been a long time that we haven't released an episode. Everybody has been extremely busy, but I think today's episode is going to be something to definitely enjoy. I'm right now joined with Arya Aloverdi and Pejman Pars. How you guys doing?
Thank you, Pasha. Good to be back on the program. Hopefully, we can get back to the usual schedule.
Hi guys, another lovely episode. This one will be for sure.
Right. Guys, as you guys know, a few weeks ago we played our first match leading up to the Asian Cup, which will be happening in January. Which, as you guys can imagine, being number one in Asia, Carlos Queiroz being back, and the team we have now, that we're very much favorites to win. The Asian Cup after like so many years now, and our friendly match was against Uzbekistan, which thankfully that happened. As we know, usually our friendlies get canceled. I thought, from my own perspective, I thought it was a great team performance. I think they could have scored many more goals, but nonetheless, really have been impressed by Amir Abedzadeh, even from a club level, knowing him when I grew up with him overseas, and it seems like he's giving Bayraman a run for his money. So let's just first talk about him and what you guys have thought about him so far, and just your general points about Uzbekistan match that we played against. I'm gonna start this one with Pejman.
Well, let me say that hats off to Amir Abedzadeh. I've seen some of his highlights and one or two of his games in Maritimo in Portugal, and I must say I'm impressed by his style of play. I mean, he's not the tallest goalkeeper, but he doesn't seem to make any mistakes so far. I mean, not any major ones that will lead to any goals. So I think the move to Portugal and taking the first place in Maritimo will assure him the first place in the Asian Cup for January. I think Beraman will lose it the way Beraman is improving, because I think Queiroz appreciates playing in Portugal much more than in Iran. Although Beraman is a good keeper, but he should be really careful if he wants to continue to be number one, because I think Queiroz is giving Abedzadeh a lot of trust.
Arya?
Yeah, I disagree. I think even though he's playing at a good level, he's playing against teams like Sporting Lisbon, Porto, etc., top teams in Europe. I've watched his game last night against Lisbon, and he makes mistakes that I feel sometimes can be against higher level teams. They can punish you much more for them. I just feel like I've seen Bayern Van make mistakes, but I haven't seen him make mistakes against big teams the way Abedzadeh has.
Sorry, but then I think you're forgetting in the World Cup, we were just lucky that his mistake didn't lead to a goal. So
no, I agree, but I don't know. I just don't think Abedzadeh. Not that he can't handle at the high level, but I don't think that he has the same spirit for the match the way Bayern Van has. I think his spirit for a big game is bigger, in my opinion. I think he has a.
Sorry, I don't understand.
I just feel like I feel like in a bigger match, Bayern Van shines. Against Portugal, he just looked like he was always in tune with his ability. I don't feel like against weaker teams, especially in the qualifiers, I think he sort of underestimates them, or he becomes complacent. Whereas I think against bigger teams, I think he shines. But that's the thing. That's the thing, though. Abedzadeh against mid-table teams has a very consistent performance. So having both of them in the squad is great for Queiroz, because it gives him a great balance of two different mentalities, but also two different goalkeepers, completely different goalkeepers in terms of technique and their physicality. He's tall keeper with a lot of great physical attributes. Always is a much more technical keeper, a lot more fundamentals, and great with the ball at his feet. So he's got two options who can really give him a tough headache. But I think Bayron Van nicks it for me.
So I just want to talk
Interesting.
about.
Sorry, Pasha.
Yeah.
What's your take on this?
Yeah, I just want to say I grew up with Amir overseas, and I know him very well. And as you guys imagine, being the son of one of the most legendary goalkeepers, or sometimes people argue probably might be arguably one of the, or let's just put it this way, the best goalkeeper that Iran has ever had. I mean, that's always up for debate with Hijazi and everything. Is one thing that you guys that I've always respected about Amir is his mentality. You gotta imagine being the son of such a legendary goalkeeper, and you coming through raw hand and it wasn't working out for you. Then you move all the way to Portugal. You're playing for I believe a team he was playing for was in the third league. You come into the first division. You take the place of the starting goalkeeper now in that age, and now you're starting week in and week out, and you just got called up to the World Cup despite you didn't play because Bayron Van is at such a young age, and now you're playing up against the likes of Sporting Lisbon. I think that was the team that he recently was up against this weekend, and then you're going to play against such top teams that play regularly in the Champions. I mean, it's just fantastic to see. And another thing that I like about Amir is I believe that his ball playing distribution has just been a joy to watch, even looking at his highlights. But I think I agree with Pejman more that, I mean, yes, you could talk about Bayraman and stuff like that, but I really do believe that one thing that Carlos Queiroz has always appreciated and has always been fond of players is that they go out of their way trying to prove their worth in Europe. And right now, we could talk about even maybe Sardar Azmoun should be thinking about if he's going to even have a starting place because Kaveh Reza is giving his a run for his money, which that's another debate. So right now, I think the situation with Amir Abedzad, I wouldn't even be surprised if we see Amir Abedzad starting in goal in the Asian Cup, to be honest with you, because he's done such a marvelous job, and somebody with that mentality, and everything on his social media posts and stuff is just about I'm gonna do whatever I can to make it to where I gotta be. You gotta give somebody at that young age that much credit that he's not about the as we Iranians call it, like the hashia, or just looking for stuff to do, or just trying to be always in the image that unfortunately Sardar Azmoun is always making controversial issues for him. So you got to give someone credit like that, which Carlos Queiroz thankfully is, that he's going out his way proving his point, and he's basically saying that, hey, listen, I could be Iran's #1 goalkeeper like my father was, and despite the fact I'm playing for Maritima, I definitely seen him moving to a much better team next season and onwards, and full credit to him. He's done a marvelous job. I mean, is he gonna be Team Mendy's #1 goalkeeper anytime soon? I could possibly see it. That's all for debate, but we just gotta appreciate his attitude and mentality, and props to him. Now, guys, I want to switch. Is there
Sorry,
anything you want to
Pasha,
add?
just one final thing.
Yeah.
Don't get me mistaken about Bayraman. I think he did an awesome World Cup, and he was one of the major factors for Iran getting decent results. But I was really disappointed at him that he, after the World Cup, didn't move overseas, because he said it, and a lot of Iranian media said it. He had some decent offers from Turkey and other clubs in Europe, but he decided to stay in Persepolis. That for me is what I would say not the kind of mentality that you'll see in maybe Abedzadeh. Just as Pasha said, he went to the third division of Portugal, and look at him now. He plays regularly in Portugal.
Yeah. But also, Pejman, one thing that I also like to add and about this conversation is that you guys also got to remember, it's like also the fundamental Iranian aspect of the way Amir was brought up compared to the likes of Bayram Van. Amir was also playing when he left like my school. He was playing. He got a trial for Tottenham Hotspurs for some whatever reason, didn't work out for him. Then he went all the way to America. Was playing in Orange County Blues, if I'm not mistaken. Then he came back to Iran, got a contract with Persepolis, but he wasn't playing. So then he went to Rohan, and now he's in Portugal. But what I'm trying to say is that he's been privileged of having that opportunity. And Bayram Van, as we know about his situation, where he basically came out of nowhere and made it in football. And I feel like it's very hard for somebody with his upbringing that has made it in Iran, that he just wants to take the risk and go to Europe, if that makes sense, compared to the likes of Amir, which he's traveled the world much more. He speaks English pretty well. He's seen some things that Bayram has never even seen. And I think that's like a cultural issue that a lot of our players have, is that the money they're getting paid in Iran, they just feel comfortable. He has children there.
I agree.
And that's another.
I want to. Sorry, Pasha, to interrupt you. I want to add. I mean, this is all great. This is all great points, but who's the better keeper? I mean, we can say, oh, he's got better mentality. He's got the European experience. But end of the day, who is the better keeper? That is what Queiroz, in my opinion, cares about more. Obadzade was playing for Maritimo anyway before the World Cup. So, in my opinion, that is out of the equation. Because to me, if he was playing in the World Cup, in Maritimo before the World Cup, and he was, having the European experience, he was getting starts, Queiroz should have started him. So, I don't
But
think
that was just for half of a season.
No, I get it. I understand that. But Pejman, the thing is, I still think Queiroz believes Beran Van's the better keeper. That comes from not just from last season. I think even over the course of 2 or 3 years, Beran Van's consistently been his keeper. Now that could change, and I'm not even saying Always shouldn't be the keeper. I'm not even saying that. I'm saying it from his standpoint. I think he will go with the better keeper, and that just comes down to personal preference as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see that in time. But now let's just talk about, the Uzbekistan match. What did you guys think about it? Saman Qudus unfortunately didn't start, but he did come on, and I do believe he's gonna have a starting place in the team, coming to the Asian Cup. But once again, Saida Zatolai, what another top performance from them from my perspective. What did you guys think about the match and the performance? Because I feel like even the result really didn't show the overall image. I feel like we could have beat them honestly by 3 or 4 goals. But Arya, what did you think about the match? If you just give us a quick overview.
It was a boring match, to be fair. I mean, and the reason why I say that is because we set a really high standard in the World Cup. With the intensity, I feel like we saw some good glimpses of creativity from players like Gol Bezan, who I thought was one of the outstanding players in that game. But I think overall the game just looked a bit tedious. It wasn't really progressing as far as having constant attacks. But that will come because, listen, end of the day, we were a defensive team in the World Cup, and it's difficult to go from that mentality straight into an attacking sort of mindset. But we have to also look at the setup that Carlos Queiroz played in this game. In my opinion, the biggest thing I saw was the change of formation. He obviously in the World Cup was playing a 4-1-4-1, 4-5-1 like variation, quite a defensive block. But he in this game went back to the 4-2-3-1 that we have known over maybe in his earlier years when he was working with Iran. He played that 4-2-3-1 formation, which I think is a sign of things to come. That he is looking to go back into the attacking aspects of Iranian football and bring back our goal scoring touch.
Pejman?
Just very quickly, as Ara said, it takes time to change formation, to change the idea of the way you're playing. Iran has been playing defensively almost all the way until to the World Cup, but now it's time to change to play a more offensive kind of game because we're playing weaker teams in our Asian Cup group. We have teams like Vietnam. Iran is not supposed to let in a goal against Vietnam. Iran have to be the attacking team. Also Yemen, also Iraq, maybe the best team in that group after Iran, but still. So I think that will take time. We saw some improvements in the second half, some good substitutions. Although I don't think we should underestimate Uzbekistan. I think they're a dark horse in the Asian Cup for sure. They have a really young, interesting squad that's been developing together, and I think we will see them at the top 4 in Asia if they have the luck on their side. So. Coming from the Asian Cup, from the Uzbekistan game, what we need to take from that is how can we use these players to change the formation or the attacking game that we want to play. Do we want to see offensive players such as Qolizadeh? Do we want to remove Ashkan Dejaghe and Masoud Shojaei for good, or this is really important times that Queiroz needs to think what he will do in FIFA days in October and in November. He will have like something between 2 to 3, maximum 4 games to figure that out. And we don't know. We know that the Iranian Football Federation and Iranian football, we barely know nothing how it will go. We only have one friendly so far, and that's against a kind of weak team, Bolivia, in Iran, the 16th of October. So uh, Iran needs to play against better teams to show themselves that they can be worthy to have this kind of attacking play that they need to play.
Exactly. And another thing also is that if you guys pay close attention, we're playing so attacking, but we're so disorganized at the back, and I think obviously our players weren't used to that kind of style of play. There needs to be a balance, and obviously Iran, unfortunately, with a lot of issues we have, we're not always the most privileged team to always organize friendlies and everything. And for the listeners that are listening to this, there was a rumor spreading around that Carlos Queiroz, they're asking Carlos Queiroz about friendlies between Argentina and Colombia from a Swiss agency that roughly around $600,000 the agency offered Team if they're willing to pay that much to play against these two teams in the U.S. and from our sources and what we know that in fact was true, but obviously as you can imagine with the politics and everything for these guys to travel always all the way to U.S. and play against the likes, it's not gonna happen. But anyways, I just want to put it out there because I've gotten a few DMs about that if that was true or not, and from our source and everything, we could confirm that was true. But it would would have been fantastic, and I'm pretty sure Carlos Queiroz would have been very fond of that. But anyways, I just want to quickly talk about now our players overseas. The first person I want to talk about is Said Azatolai. And what's interesting is that, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe his manager from Reading right now, Paul Clements, a very notable manager, he called Carlos Queiroz about Said Azatolai, what he thought about him because he was interested in him, if I'm not mistaken, obviously. And Carlos Queiroz obviously being fond of such a player with his capabilities that I really do believe that he could surpass Nekunam depending on his mentality right now. And he's done such a marvelous job for Reading in these past couple of games. I believe he just played only like 2 or 3 games, but he's really made himself such a standout that everybody's talking about him. What did you guys think about so far his performance in Reading and the hype he's getting, Pejman?
Well, this question should go to Arya because he's seen the full games. I only seen highlights, so I can only shortly say that it looks that people in Reading, the fans, they seem to be impressed about his way of play. We know that Said is kind of a physical guy. He tends to get a lot of yellow cards, but he tends to do some tackles, and the championship is like it's made for tackles and for that kind of game.
Very
Maybe
physical.
it suits him well. Arya, please enlighten us. You know more.
Arya, before you start, I was just gonna ask a quick question. Does he play for Reading as he does for national team as more like a 6, like he's basically stands in front of the back 4, or does he play more as that kind of 8?
Yeah, so I watched his game against Hull City. I believe they're playing a 4-3-3. He's playing as like kind of like defensive midfielder as a 6, like you said, with Bakuna and Kelly either side. So and I actually think they were playing a 4-4-2 before he came, with Bakuna and Kelly playing as 2 midfielders in the middle. But I never think bringing Said in and behind them has given them a lot of balance. Like against Hull City, especially in the first 15-20 minutes, you can see Izatullahi just controlling the ball, one touch, controlling it and then passing it. Also, I think Izatullahi, one thing he's developed over the years under Carlos Queiroz, and even when he was at Atletico Madrid, is his ability to read the game off the ball. So on the ball, we know he's a great player, but off the ball, his ability to just position himself in the correct areas. He understands he has to be between the centre backs all the time. If they move across, he goes with them. If they go forward, he goes. He's always in the right area as that sort of deep midfielder. I think for Reading, in their last game against Brentford. Watched a little bit of it, especially the second half. He was everywhere. I mean, he was literally everywhere, and you can see him imposing his physicality and just improving not only as a footballer but as a human being. He's understanding that he's got a responsibility to control the game and actually be the leader on the pitch, which is it's great to see. And you'll see him in the Premier League in a few years' time if he continues.
Is there anything you would like to add, Pejman? I mean, this is just one thing that I've always thought about Said is that he has the potential to be one of the greatest midfielders, not only in Asia but overseas. He has the potential, especially his attitude that he was back-to-back Young Player of the Year in Iran, playing for Malabon. I believe he got a award when he was like 16 or something, and then he goes all the way, plays for Atletico Madrid's B side and C side. But unfortunately, for some whatever reason, I think he went all the way to Russia and there was doubts about what he's going to do. Then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, he signs with Reading. You got to give him a lot of respect for that. And I believe with his physical presence, he has not at such a young age. I think that it looks good for him. Like England is a good fit for him, and I do believe that this is a higher step up for him than obviously Russia, as we all know. And hopefully he'll just keep going. But is there anything else you want to add, Pejman?
Yeah, and that's something that we've talked about before, and it's the importance of having people that have faith in you.
Exactly.
And that's something that Said have had since he was like 17 or something. He's talked about Carlos Queiroz kind of as a role model, as a father figure, and that's really important. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was the youngest goal scorer for the national team, and more or less since the first minute of the national team, he's been a regular, and that kind of confidence is really important. So he's been given good confidence. He's in environments where he can improve, and you can see that he wants to improve. He needs to improve because he's still a young boy, and championship is a great stepping stone. What do you call it? For becoming a better football player. They play almost 2 games a week, so he will have plenty of time to play against better opponents than he did in Russia, because he didn't play that much in Russia. In Russia, you have a couple of good teams, but in general, I think the championship could make him a better and a smarter player, and hopefully he will make the Reading fans proud, and we will see him come back into the national team as a smarter player, because I think there's a lot of potential in him still.
Exactly. I want to add quickly, like on your point about him at Russia, it's absolutely ludicrous that he didn't even get adequate playing time in Russia. It's awful to think about. Think about a player who's regular for his national team, a talented player, clearly a talented player, and the club just completely didn't play him. Like it was absolute nonsense in my opinion. Like as a football fan, you see that and you think, well, why was he not playing? He's playing amazingly in the I know Championship's not the biggest league in the world, but it's, in my opinion, it's up there with rivaling the Russian league. And him not playing in the Russian league is poor, in my opinion.
And another thing I just want to talk about, Side, as I tell you just a few points just coming off to what you guys said, is that we also got to keep in mind is that when he wasn't playing for Russia, look at how much of a trust Carlos Queiroz had in him, and like what he saw in this player with his caliber, that he was walking into the national team starting, despite he wasn't even playing a minute, in Russia, and that just goes on to show that he sees something inside that that was, a lot of us were just like, wow, he still starts for the national despite he's not even playing any minutes for his club, which is fantastic to see. And another thing is if he keeps performing, day by day, every week, how he's doing for Reading, Reading are gonna have a hard time even signing because apparently he's on a loan deal. So basically, he's gonna attract another few top clubs, and it's fantastic seeing. It's just better for Iranian football to get this much more recognition. Now, guys, let's talk about there's a Jahan Bakhsh, which is very weird. He's in a very weird situation. and he's been Brighton's all-time expensive signing, arguably the best player in Netherlands in the Eredivisie last season, top scorer as a winger, which is fabulous to see. And I don't think that I think he scored the most goals out of all the Asian players, if I'm not mistaken, as a winger throughout his time there. But anyways, he has a really weird situation happening in Brighton. He's not getting playing time. He comes off the bench. He hasn't started, and I haven't paid much close attention as to why that is, because I know you guys watch it regularly. Is Arya, why is that? And is you think that's just more the coaches is trying to protect him, trying to transition him in because of the hardship in theirs in the EPL, or do you just think that is it Knock or whoever it is ahead of him, Locadia, that they're just doing a better job and it's hard to drop him at this time?
I don't know. It's a tough argument because at the moment he's playing Solly March and Anthony Knockhart out wide. And it's a strange one because, first of all, they're both left-footed. They're both left-footed, and he's playing March on the left wing, Knockhart on the right wing. So, if you watch the game, it's obvious that Brighton will become left-sided heavy, because no one's going to go down the right-hand side. There's no right footer, So it's just strange that he's not playing Jahan Baksh, or at least he's scared though. Who's another right-footed winger that they could play. So I don't know. I think maybe I'm being biased, but I think it's pretty weird that he's not starting. But listen, and the idea of him not being ready for the Premier League, don't give me that. Like, he was top goal scorer in the Dutch league. Like, to me, that's not an argument. It's not an argument that you can think of straight off your head. There's more arguments that I could think of that he wouldn't start than him not being ready for the Premier League.
Pejman?
Well, maybe it's a really hard one here. I do believe that's not starting for 7 games in a row. It's kind of strange, but maybe being the best goal scorer in Eredivisie doesn't mean so much these days. Who won it last year? Do we even remember? And where's that guy?
I think it was Nikolai Jorgensen. He's still in. I think he's still in the league.
Yeah, in PSV, and like 2 years ago, some guy won it, and he went to Tottenham and become like not so good anymore. Maybe we're underestimating the Premier League a bit and overestimating the Eredivisie. I don't know. I do believe that he's ready to play in the Premier League for sure. But the problem is he's playing at the same position as this guy Knockhart, who's actually been decent. I've seen their games so far, and he's I like him, this Knockhart guy, because he reminds me kind of this Shaqiri. He's kind of short, kind of explosive, kind of fast, good technique, irrational, and does some nice things on the pitch. But he's a really different player compared to Jahan Baksh. He should Knockhart and Jahan Baksh. I would like to see them play both from the start. Then you have to lose someone else. Maybe, if I'm not mistaken, this guy called Marsh. Sina knows more about this. Who plays on the left side. But the question is, will the coach move Knockhart to the left side and have Jahan Baksh on the right side, or what will be his move? I'm sure Jahan Baksh's time will come in the Premier League, but so far it's been really disappointing. And if this continues, then I think his agents should have a long look at themselves in the mirror and say, is this the way we want it to go, and what happened? Because I'm sure that Brighton couldn't possibly be the best choice that they had. I can't see that happening. So they must have some better clubs, but they chose Brighton for a reason, and that reason is nothing that we can see at the pitch at the moment. Playing 10-20 minutes every game, that's ludicrous. So we'll see what happens.
Let me ask.
Having said that, I think he will start eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to add a few points to Jahanbakhsh before we then. I just want to quickly then talk about Ali Olizadeh and Kaveh Rezai, and then obviously wrap it up with Majid Hosseini for the Legionnaires. Then we're gonna talk about Persepolis. But think about when Adil Jahanbakhsh was playing for NEC at the time, as we know, he was very close to also signing for Brighton before he moved to Azad Alkmaar. So the manager, for the listeners that are listening, Brighton's manager, his name is Chris Hutton. If you didn't know, I mean, he's been very always keen on this player. The conversations I've had with United's Jahanbakhsh's agent, and his conversations he has with us. I mean, this guy has always been keen on Adil Jahanbakhsh. I've seen there's some tweets from people saying that, well, maybe the manager has never been tweeted. Maybe it was just more like a sporting director just picking him. It's not the case. He's always been keen on him. And actually, Chris Hutton traveled all the way to the Netherlands at the time that Adil Jahanbakhsh was getting his reward. Being one of the best players in Eredivisie, or the top scorer in Holland, alongside his former manager John van den Brom, and now his manager right now, Chris Hutton. So there's no doubt that the manager rates him. It's just there's always questions of it's been few games now. It's actually been many games now that he hasn't started, which is kind of weird. At the same time, also you could argue that maybe the players that are ahead of him right now are putting such a great performance in that it's hard for them to drop him. But anyways, let's now talk about Ali Olizadeh, a player that finally, which I'm very excited about, because I really even see now when he was talking about it. And when I was in Iran this summer, I visited Saipa, and people at the club were talking a lot about him too. Is that he's such a traditional, silky left-footed winger, and he's done such a great job, I believe, right now for his club right now, Charleroi. And he actually started against Uzbekistan as well and did decently. I mean, he had a few chances to score too, but unfortunately he didn't bag it in. But what do you think about him, Pejman? And I believe that he's gonna make a huge step up, from this club, and I believe that he's gonna be one of our most outstanding players down the road. I really do believe that, because he's really, really talented. Pejman?
Yeah, what a guy. I mean, I've seen his games in Charleroi so far. Unfortunately, lately he's been on the bench, but I mean, he plays with such confidence, with such ease. He makes hard things look easy, and I really hope that he will not only be in the squad, but hopefully will get some playing time and be in the starting 11 in the Asian Cup, because he's the kind of guy that Iran, I think, needs for this new offensive natural team that we so desperately need. And his technique, his understanding for the game, and finding those crucial passes could be really important for us. I would like to see him, and actually maybe a guy like Torabi, both who played in the Saipa last year, start together. I think they'll find each other really good. They've been under Ali Daei and Kairosh. We know they have good connection, and they seem to find the best out of these kind of players. And I really hope that Daei continues to let these young players grow, because young players in Iran have every player more or less have major confidence in Ali Daei and what he says. And Ali Daei has shown us time after time that he can find good young players and really make them shine. And for me, Olizadeh, he's the future of Iran if he continues like this.
Arya, I mean, you could talk about Ali Olizadeh, just because I just want to quickly also talk about Kaveh Rezai, which I think that I wouldn't be surprised even Kaveh Rezai makes the start against Osman, because his mentality and from where he's gotten, from ACL FC all the way to Club Bruges, and he's going to be playing against the likes of Dortmund, AS Monaco, and I believe Atletico Madrid in the Champions. It's just fabulous to see a player that, honestly, I didn't believe that if he was going to make a move, how much of an impact he's going to have, but he's been fabulous. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. I think Kaveh is a top player. I think he's the epitome of hard work. Somebody who's came from a great player in the U17s for Iran. Didn't really had a bit of a, we could say, a patch of, not the best footballing time in his career. That sort of 18 to 22 years sort of age. But recently, I think he's really shone. Unfortunately, he's struck with a couple of injuries at the moment, so that's blighted his start of the season. But I think I agree. I think he will give Osman a run for his money in the striker position in Team Italy. But let's see. I mean, he needs to keep scoring. He needs to keep on playing. But listen, his team are first in the league with great players around them. So I think just all I can see for him is improvement in his career. So we hope for the best. Gol Bezan is the same. I think he will just keep on improving, and just hopefully in the next World Cup we see him and Torabi, all these players, starters, if not, what would you call it? Just subs that come on and impact the game really well.
Pejman?
Well, I have nothing more to add about Gol Bezan, if that's what you're asking about.
Just anything on Kave, if you want to add anything.
On Kave? Yes. He's a favorite of mine. I just hope that his injury isn't too serious and he will miss the Asian Cup as well. He's a hard-working striker that's good on everything, basically, and he needs to maybe improve everything as well. But his last season in Belgium showed us why Sadar Osman will have a hard time keeping that first spot, and that's only good for a national team to get some major competition.
Let's not forget he's playing in the Champions League as well this season. So again, just great experience.
Okay, guys. And the last person I want to talk about is he's been such an outstanding player, making a lot of headlines, and he was such an outstanding player, even coming off the bench in the World Cup, even starting against Spain, is Majid Hosseini at such a young age. Somebody that Arya is a big fanboy of, and somebody that I'll probably be a big fanboy of soon too, just based off of his mentality and everything. And I definitely know he's gonna hopefully make the higher move after his club right now, depending on circumstances. What have you made out of him? So, and apparently that every game that he started, the team hasn't lost, which is kind of quite crazy to think about as well, statistic wise.
That from me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the number one fanboy with the shirt. Go on.
I love the kid, man. I love the kid. He's I mean, listen, like, it's not easy to come straight out of an Iranian league, being a centre back, going into a good European league and performing at such a high level. Because I mean, think about it. Over the years, we've only had maybe a couple of centre backs go to Europe and do okay. Like we look at Rahman Rezai went to Livorno. A couple of other players I can't really name because I don't really it's so long ago that doesn't really matter anymore, because we have Purali Ganji, we have Majid Hosseini playing in Trabzonspor, and I've got to say I was right. I was right about Majid Hosseini before the World Cup, and him as a player, you have to look at him and say, like, what else do you want? Because he's literally if you look at him on his matches this season, he's played about 4 matches, and every game that he's played with either Toure or Akbas, and they're 2 pretty average centre backs. But he's basically been, in my opinion, their best, if not the best defender, probably the best player, because he's literally held their team so steady throughout these games. And like you said, Peter Pasha, they haven't lost with him in the team. They haven't lost because they're so secure. They have good attacking players, Trabzonspor, but without him, they just can't utilise that attack. They're too scared to go and attack because they will concede goals. So I think it's just fantastic to see him. And listen, I've got his T-shirt. I'm wearing it now for all of his matches. And I think from now on, everyone should buy his jersey and support him because he's a top player.
Awesome. Pejman?
Yeah, I mean, where did this guy come from? I mean, being good in Iran is one thing, but so far what we've seen from him, he looks like he's been playing for like 10, 15 years
And he's
as a
only
professional.
22. And he's only 22. That's just he's only 22.
Yeah, he's only 22. And I'm glad that Trabzonspor is taking him in. They show him a lot of confidence. As soon as he came back from the injury, he went right back to the starting 11. So hopefully, Trabzonspor is another step for his career to continue. And having a couple of years actually in Turkey isn't something that he should be afraid of. He should continue this way. Maybe even next year he go to one of the bigger clubs in Istanbul, like Fenerbahce or Besiktas or even Galatasaray. That would be really fun. So far, what we've seen from him, it's easy to like the guy. And just ask Arya. I mean, we're happy. I mean, I'm happy that we found a center back that makes us forget about Jalal Hosseini.
I want to add quickly, Pejman, like you touched on his injury. Like a lot of players who get injured, especially at a young age, look at like Shariati, a couple of other players like Osmoon. When they get injured, it takes them a while to get back into the groove. Majid Hosseini got a really serious back injury before the World Cup, like a really, really bad injury. He was out for about at least a few months. He went straight into, I think it was the Asian Champions League semi-final, and he was unbelievable in that game. Then he went straight into the World Cup. I think he was also having a bit of a niggle before the World Cup. Straight into it, no problems, head down. I think it's the attitude that one of the things that's so key that we don't see a lot from Iranian players, that they get too sensitive and they get too, their feelings get to them. They get upset very quickly. I haven't seen it from him because he lost against Spain. He must have felt hard done by a loss, but he didn't get, his head didn't go down, and he kept fighting. He went against, in the last game against Portugal, his head was still against Portugal, yeah, and his head was still up, so it just shows the attitude of a player at his age, turning 22 on the day of the Spain game. It's crazy. Like, you've got to give props to him.
Exactly, and we wish him the best too, and such a great pairing that him and Mortez Pradigenci, another player of ours that just recently moved to Belgium. And we'll talk about him next time because he hasn't. I mean, he just scored recently, but he hasn't had much of a performance yet to talk about. Let's just wrap this pod up talking about the Asian Champions League. As you guys know, Persepolis, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the only team that has made, out of all the Asian clubs, the most appearance in the semis, but hasn't actually made it to the final. They'll be going up against Al Sadd, and as you guys know, Al Sadd is a top team in Qatar. Javi's part of it. They have some top players and whatnot, and it's great. I believe the match is actually happening soon, maybe tomorrow or Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. I think Pejman will know better than me in regards to that. But what do you guys think about this matchup, and do you potentially see Persepolis somehow nicking to make it to the Asian Champions League final, Pejman?
Yeah, the game is 2nd of October, if I'm not mistaken, and return will be 2 weeks after, 1 week after, something like that. I'm sure we can check that out, and we will let you know via Twitter. But Al Sadd is the better team so far. They've been decent, and they've been consistent, and they have, of course, Xavi, and let's not forget Gabi. I mean, these are two world-class players, really, but they're playing against Persepolis, which is a good team, which in Azadi Stadium can make it difficult for any Asian team. So what Persepolis need to do is make sure that they don't concede any goals in Azadi and hopefully win by 1 or even 2 goals. And when they play in Qatar, they will have the crowd against them, maybe even the ref against them. Who knows? They need to stay focused. They need to stay sharp, and hopefully, good Vincenzo or some other player can nick a goal and make it really difficult for Persepolis. I'm rooting for Persepolis, but I think the experience in Al Sadd could be too much for them to handle. But then again, the way they went to the semifinals by losing a game 2-1 to winning 3-2, that was impressive, and they show that they are able to make it all. If Persepolis wins this game now, the semifinals, they will actually be the champions of West Asia, because unfortunately the Asian Football Confederation have changed the way teams qualified to the finals back then. Maybe that's a year or 2 ago. The West and East Asia could play against each other from the quarterfinals, but no, they don't. Now they don't play against each other until the finals, the very, very final. So we will play against maybe I don't know who's in the other semi-final. Is it a Chinese club, if I'm not mistaken?
It's like a Japanese and a South Korean club.
Yeah, so that's a pity, but that's the issue we have with Asia being so big. It's hard to have like a 15-hour trip to China and then play in your league like 48 hours or even 72 hours later. So we hope that Persepolis will do the best, but I think Al Sadd will be the favorites.
Sorry, Arya, is there anything you would like to add?
Not really. I mean, I hope Persepolis win, because obviously they're Iranian team, and they have players who play in Team Milli. But I'm going to be honest. For me, I'm not a big fan of the Champions League in general. So I mean, I hope the players win, but in general, I think the Champions League is is a pretty dare I say, a pretty corrupt competition. But we have to accept it as Iranian football fans.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Thank you again, Pejman Pars and Arya Alaverdi, and for everybody that has been listening to Gol Bezan throughout these past 4 years. We get a lot of people messaging us, thanking us for the work we do and everything. It's all thanks to you guys taking the time to listen and sending us your thoughts and everything. We always try to bring a different side to Iranian football through a podcast as opposed to reading articles, and it's all in English as well. But nonetheless, we appreciate the support and keep tuning in. Subscribe to us on iTunes. We're everywhere. Just look us up, golbezanpodcast.com, and everybody's emails is up on the website, and our general email is mail at golbezanpodcast.com. Appreciate it, guys, and speak to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pasha. Nice work, guys. Hopefully with a new pod in the FIFA window that's in the mid of October.
All right, cheers, guys. Talk later.